what I'm gathering is that you're hearing quite a lot about emotions. It sort of reminds me when I was a kid, my family was really into going to crafts fairs, and I hated crafts fairs. And so we'd go out to visit my family who lived in upstate New York, and by the third weekend, I said, if I see one more mug or pot or, handmade something, I'm going to become like a serial craftsperson killer. So what I want to do for you today is not have you have that perception of emotions. I know that you just had a great presentation on emotions, and so I don't want to be the repeat wonder. What I really want to do is tell you some work that share with you some work that we've been doing in schools throughout the world, and mostly talk about what it means to be not only aware of your emotions, but skilled with using your emotions to achieve your goals, as well as your students' goals. So we call our framework emotional intelligence, and the reason why we call it emotional intelligence is because we believe, and now we have the research to prove it, that you can be smart about your emotional life. That, as you probably have heard already, emotions can hurt you or they can help you. They help you when you know what to do with them. So what we're going to do today is really focus on not so much the theory behind emotion like you've been learning, but what do you do with your emotions, and how do you take them in a direction that makes you healthy, maybe wealthy, and wise. I'm still working on the wealthy part. It's not really going so well. So I'm going to ask you to imagine something that I'm glad I gave you these brochures, because this little 4-color thing is what I'm going to be sharing with you right now. So everybody see this little symbol on the top of your brochures there? We call that the mood meter. And what I'm going to share with you is sort of how do you use this tool? So firstly, there's an x-axis. And the x-axis has to do with what's going on in your mind's eye. So I'm going to ask all of you right now to imagine a scale from -5 to +5. -5 right now is the most psychologically unpleasant you've ever been. So -5 this is the absolute worst experience of your life. +5, hearing a guy from Connecticut talk about feelings just brings up +5. It's like, hello, this is like a dream come true. So you're somewhere probably between +5 and -5. Likely not at +5 yet. So -5 goes on the left and +5 goes on the right. So in your mind's eye now, please give yourself a number. Next, what I'd like you to do is to pay attention to your physiology. So what's happening for you internally in your body? How's your heart going? What's your respiration like? If you're so in touch with your body, what's your blood flow like? How does your head feel? Do you feel heavy? Do you feel light? Do you feel jumpy? Or do you feel lethargic? Same thing, -5, lowest amount of energy you've ever experienced, sort of in the deepest pool of despair you've ever been in. +5, you're thinking like, you know what, I could take over this training. I'm just ready to rock and roll. Please give yourself a number there. And then what we're going to do, just let me do this for 1 second, is we're going to cross the energy and what we're going to call pleasantness. And we're going to create 4 quadrants. And that's what you have on your paper. You have the red, the blue, the green, and the yellow. So how many of you, given where your numbers are somewhere in the yellow right now? You feel pleasant with a lot of energy. Raise your hand. Not very convincing, just saying. Pleasant with a lot of energy, raise your hand. Like, yeah, all right. How many of you are pleasant but lower in energy? In the green. You look like you're in the green, where you're like, hey, smile, hands halfway up, kind of chilled. Yeah. Any blue or red today? No? So, first question. Are you the chosen ones or something? Are you the happy people? It seems like it. Yeah, you are. Yeah, we are. So I'm just for curious, I'd like you to go back to your home life. I'd like you to go back to the schools or the organizations where you work. Is everybody in the yellow and green?
Hell no.
No, so just you are. All right. How many of you work in schools? Please raise your hand. Okay, I think everybody almost. So my question for all of you is, when you walk around the corridors of your school, when you are in the classroom, or if you're a leader, how many of you see some of that red and blue? How many of you have some anxious people in your buildings? Some chronically angry people? How many of you have some people who are sort of the downers? The devastators? The despairers? I'm sure most of you do. How many of you have students that you believe come to school somewhere in the red and blue? So we mostly experience the full range of emotions, just that all of you, you're actually at Berkeley. It's a beautiful day. You get this training for a week. It's a pretty good life. So it makes sense that you're here. But what I want to share with you today is what we believe is the value and importance of experiencing the full range of emotions. That while it's great to be yellow and green, that's not a realistic place to be all the time. For example, I'm an educator, a psychologist, a researcher, and I'm trying to change policy in the United States. So I can't be in the yellow. If I walked in, let's imagine you're all policymakers, okay? Hi. Good morning, everybody. My name is Marc Brackett. There are no words in the English language dictionary to describe how happy I am to be here right now. I mean, think about it. How many people like me get to speak to people like you? I mean, the opportunities that I have right now are beyond my imagination. I mean, I actually... Okay. Or I can come in the green. You have a lovely smile. Can we all, I would like us, if it's all right with all of you, can we start this training with a deep breath? Can we try? Let's go in. And out. Wash it away. Wash all that negativity away. It's impermanent anyway, so why hold on to it? Or I can come in the blue. I don't know about you, but we researchers, we do a lot of writing. I don't know anybody who reads the articles. In all honesty, I actually don't think there's any hope. I'm here today because I'm hopeless. And maybe a change will come, but I mean, our center has done 400 papers in the last 25 years. Doesn't seem to have done any good. Or I can come in the red. Good morning, everybody. How's everybody feeling? We all right? So my name is Marc Brackett. I'm a psychologist, and I study the role and importance of emotions in decision-making, relationships, academic performance, and workplace performance. And what we've done over the last decade in particular is numerous studies which show that a child's ability to regulate his or her emotions predicts their academic performance above and beyond their IQ, above and beyond most other competing variables. We now know it. It's pretty clear. Incontrovertible evidence. But what I don't understand is why people in your position are not taking this work seriously. We now know it. We know it. It's for sure. Why is it that you're not taking it seriously? How are our children going to make it if you don't take this work seriously? The research is there. I need you to really think about that today as we go through this presentation. So which quadrant is most adaptive for my talk to policymakers? The yellow? No. Green? No. Blue? Yes. Red? Yes. I'm not walking in saying, you motherfucker, right? I mean, I could do that. Not very helpful, right? So I could take the red and I could use it in a very destructive way. Or I can channel it in a way that makes you realize the injustice that is taking place in our nation's education system. And that would be my goal for that particular presentation. Now, do I want to stay there all the time? No, like enough is enough, Mark. You know, we get it. All right, we get it. Do you want to stay in the blue all the time? No. Reminds me, I was doing a training in Hartford, Connecticut. And I was, without disclosing too much, I was in the bathroom. And I was actually washing my hands, and one of the teachers in the training came up to me and he said, you know, sir, can I share something with you? Sure. He goes, nothing you could say today will help. I'm emotionally bankrupt. And then he just walked out, right? So here I am, like this guy who spends his whole life thinking about feelings. And I think, God, what do I do with this person? You know, how do I handle it? And then, of course, the first thing that ran into my mind was a private school. And I said, well, somebody's paying $20,000 to put their kid in this person's room. My goodness, that freaks me out. So I had this odd mixture of contempt and empathy. So there's that kind of blue, but then there's also the adaptive blue, isn't there? There's that empathy, that connecting with someone who's maybe been experiencing pain. There's the kid like me who in middle school was horrifically bullied, and no one related to that person or detected the sadness of my face and acted upon it, which blows my mind till this day. Hence my motivation for this work, one piece of it anyway. So there's the empathy piece in the blue, and then there's also the despair blue, right? There's the injustice passion red, and then there's the out of control red. It works the same way with the yellow and green too, doesn't it? Right, there's that chippy dippy that can make you crazy, right? It's like, calm down, right? It reminds me, I was in a school in England recently, and I have this trainer there who I just love. Her name is Claire, and we've already disclosed that I'm going to exploit her, so it's okay. And she walks in every morning like this. Good morning, my visions of the future. And she's got so much energy, it's fantastic. But, I was trailing her for 4 days, and by Thursday I was like, Claire, the vision of the future thing, can we come? It's too much. I can't handle it. You're suffocating me with this vision. And what she doesn't realize is that high energy pleasantness may be overwhelming some of her students. It's like, what about the little introverts in the room? They're not going to, they can't compete with that energy. And then, of course, there's the yoga teachers in our schools. And don't get me wrong, I do yoga pretty much regularly. But you can't be in Shavasana all day. I mean, right? You just can't be in Shavasana all day. It's like that gentleness all day. It's it's like Warrior One. It's not like Warrior One. Yeah, Warrior One's a pose. It's a warrior pose. Shavasana, you can talk softly, but come on. A little bit of stimulation here. So as you can see here, we think emotions matter, and matter a great deal for almost all aspects of our lives. So I want you to, you plotted yourself. Now we're going to move on to the word that best describes your feeling state. What is that word? On the count of one, I want you to think about that word. 3, 2, 1, freeze. Raise of hands, just for curiosity. How many of you had a little bit of a challenge finding the exact word? Hand up. Put your hands up high. Please look around the room. Now, I just saw a whole list of feeling words up here that you were doing before. Any hypotheses about why you didn't have a word?
Maybe because you're feeling maybe more than one emotion, so many all at the same time, so you can't pinpoint just one. I agree.
All right, so that's a possibility. Maybe you're just, very complex. I'm feeling this way about the training. I have to worry about the weekend coming up, or it's actually over. Yeah.
Or just feeling neutral.
Maybe you have no feeling. One question is, does that actually exist? Can you ever be a tabula rasa?
But you're not used to paying attention to that, so then you can't name what's there.
Yeah. Maybe you just don't have, maybe you don't have the vocabulary, or maybe you just maybe nobody's asked you how you felt in a long time. So you haven't had to say it. Or what happens when people say, how are you feeling? Okay. Fine, okay. Where I come from, it's sort of like this. How are you feeling today? They don't even use words. And it's like, all right, does that mean like disgusted or something? Any other hypotheses?
I was thinking, like really listening to you and taking that in, I feel like I was being analytical.
Uh-huh.
And it seems separate to me that, so when you sort of surprised me, you said, oh, so how are you feeling? It was like, I felt a shift in, I've got to pay attention to my emotions when I'm really like in my brain thinking.
Okay, you needed more time. Maybe you needed.
Maybe.
So ask me how I'm feeling.
How are you feeling?
Give me a few minutes. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. We don't do that, but we don't give, we just, how are you feeling today? Ask me how I'm feeling.
Me? How are you feeling? How are you feeling?
Devastated. See, everybody's laughing. I'm devastated. It's not very funny. So there's some interesting thing going on there too, isn't it? Yes. Well,
Lying about
if 100% of the room is here, I mean, it's certainly possible. But maybe not. Maybe some of us are not really comfortable saying, "Well, I'm kind of a little blue right now, a little uptight."
maybe my language doesn't match up with my feelings, so I'm searching in this small, limited sense of words for something that's kind of, bigger than me and smaller than me and all of that. I'm not sure I have the language to maybe do it. I have to choose from this list.
That list is inadequate, maybe.
Yeah.
Interesting. So lots of hypotheses. One more.
Of the list that we came up with, most of our emotion words were red and blue words. They were strong and mostly unpleasant.
Interesting.
Emotions, and we only had a few that would have been yellow or green.
And this is California. Imagine what it's like in New England. Interesting. Good point. Well, we're gonna add some more to your list. So that first question was on recognition of emotion, coupled with the labeling of emotion, correct? What you're doing is you're going inward, and I'm asking you to think about what's going on in your mind's eye and in your physical sense of self, putting those two together to come into one of these four quadrants, and then trying to find that word. No worries. I say no worries about everything now that I've been to Australia. So the second question I have for you now is why? So you plotted yourself, you put yourself in one of the quadrants, you tried to find the word, but now I'm going to ask you, what caused you? What was the reason? You chose a place, right? You did. Everyone did do that. What was the reason? So if you had to say, I'm in the yellow because, I'm in the green because, what would come after the because? Who's willing to share? Yes, sir.
I like the way it feels there.
You like the way it feels
There.
there?
Yeah.
So is that a hopeful place, or is that where you actually are?
It's where I am, but it feels good here. So I'd like to stay here as much as possible.
Here in this training?
Here in that space.
Here in that space.
Related to your question.
Okay, fair enough.
Mine was I just had food and I had a shower and I'm in a place with a lot of really happy, warm people. So all my senses are very happy right now. The sun, the warmth, everything.
Sun, warmth, people. Like, yeah, baby.
Yeah.
I feel good.
Yeah.
Anybody else willing to share? Yes.
When you first asked us the questions, it was before your presentation, so I sort of was like right in the middle of both lines at a 0, and I was waiting and happy to sort of be in that place. And then when you started, the word that came to mind was completely amused. I mean,
Uh-huh.
I've been laughing for the past 10 minutes. So I've moved over since you've asked the question, and that's why I'm in yellow, maybe even bordering green right now. I don't know.
I like that.
It's the best.
Reminds me though, you know, when I teach, I get these student evaluations because at Yale there's called a shopping period. And it's this really gross thing where kids get to go to class for 2 weeks and then they decide which professor they want to stick with. So in my evaluation it says the first 2 weeks, Brackett is fantastic. It's downhill from thereafter. I do all my entertaining to get everybody in, then it's like, all right, now we're going to work hard. Okay, so we're thinking about the understanding of emotion. We're going to go a little deeper into that soon. This underlying cause. You know, for some of us, it's just an ideal place for this gentleman. For others of us, it's because of being around people. It's because of your instructor. It's a variety of reasons. Maybe you're away from your home life. Maybe you're just, it's nice to have an education time for yourself. Now, the third question is expression. So if I were to put up a mirror in front of your face, would your facial expression correlate with what your inner experience is right now? So if I were walking around with my mood meter app and I were to plot each of you, how aligned would my plot be with where you plotted yourself? There's like silence in the room. It's not that serious.
Are you asking us?
Yeah, well, I'm not. I know that I have, yeah, I am. That was not a rhetorical question.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that I wear my emotion on my face constantly.
Okay.
I have the worst poker face. People know instantly how I'm feeling.
Mhm.
Hey, what's wrong? Are you mad? What just happened? You know, always. And
Uh-huh.
I wish I were a little bit cooler.
Or you mean more stoic?
Less readable.
Less readable?
I like to be inscrutable once in a while.
Once in a while, but you just leak.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? What do you think about this congruence between your inner psychological experience and your outward expression?
I think for me, the yellow and green are more congruent than the red and blue, because red and blue feel to me less socially acceptable. So like in a room like this, I wouldn't show the red and blue as much as I'd be willing to show the yellow.
And do you think you would be skilled at just, if you were experiencing it, nobody would know
I
it?
would love to think that, yes, of course.
Yeah. How many of you think that it leaks?
I'm sure it is. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like this kind of stuff, right? Like Paul's work on micro-expressions. I'm fine. How are you feeling today? Fine. It does leak, unfortunately. Final question for the opening. We're going to be here today until, what, 10? Is that right? I'm here. They've booked me solid for all day. I could stay here until we're bloated after dinner. So my question to all of you is, what's your strategy? Knowing that it's like a gorgeous day outside, knowing that you've been, processing a lot of information over the last 2 days, knowing yourself in terms of your own attentional capacities. What is your strategy to remain open to the next few hours? Skepticism is great, closed mindedness, not so great. To use the term mindful, the mindfulness stuff, present. What is your strategy? What's going to help you get the most out of this workshop training? Please close your eyes. Take a nice long inhale. And ask yourself that question. What is the strategy that's going to best serve you for the next few hours? Okay, please open your eyes. And I'd like you to be accountable for your strategy. So please, at your table groups, just share maybe the word that you came up with, if you maybe have another word now that you've been thinking about it. And please share the strategy that you're going to use for the next 2.5 hours or so to really get the most. Go ahead. We're going to do this in 2 minutes, so very quickly. You got 30 seconds or 20 seconds each. Okay, so what did we come up with? What was the strategy that came up with over here? Anybody share a strategy that seemed, I like that one.
Okay, so we talked about maybe physically taking care of ourselves, getting up when we needed to, stretching when we needed to, drinking
Yeah.
water, eating if we needed to.
Other strategies?
Curiosity and caffeine.
Curiosity, so coffee, tea, drugs.
I'm gonna keep my mission in front of me, keep my purpose, what I'm here to accomplish
Yeah.
in the world in front of me, and
Nice.
be open to your coaching.
Nice. So you're just going to sort of like just allow things in and not judge them?
And when I notice I'm not doing that, bring myself back to listening.
So my question to you is, how do you do that piece of it?
Pretty good at checking it. When I notice noise or boredom, instead of focusing on that, just bring my attention back to it.
Okay.
So it's a lifetime game to play.
It is.
Yes.
So when you're in schools, right, and you have kids who you say, focus! Right? It's a lot easier said than done, isn't it? What does it mean to focus? Who's teaching them the focus skills? Pay attention. What does that entail? Calm down. What does that actually mean? What are the strategies? So part of what we're going to think about today is, what are these literal strategies? What are the specifics that we have to do in order to teach ourselves to be more self-regulated, or bring in other aspects of self-regulation? So what I've done with you in this moment is share with you what we call the ruler skills. The first is recognizing emotion. And we'll get into this. Don't write this down. Don't write this down. You'll write in a minute. The second is understanding. Where did it come from? The third is labeling. What's the word? The fourth is expressing. How am I showing this to the world around me? And the fifth is, all right, what am I going to do with this information? Do I want to stay in the green, or do I want to push myself to the yellow? If I'm in the blue, how do I get to the green? If I'm in the red, how do I get down to the yellow or the green? Does that make sense to everybody? So our focus today is going to be thinking about what we do with our emotion states. How do we maintain them or shift them? And why do we care? Because what we know is that emotions drive 4 primary aspects of everyday life. And this is the research that our center has been doing for decades. The first is attention, memory, and learning. That from our perspective, our theoretical models, emotions are driving your attentional capacities right now. They're going to influence your memory, and they're going to either enhance or hinder your learning of this material. So if you are in the psychological state or feeling interest right now, what does that mean? Does that mean do you think you're going to be paying more attention if you're interested? Yes. If you're bored, you're disengaged. It's very simple, but not so simple. If you are highly anxious about something, how much or how many of your resources can you put into this experience? Part of my interest in bullying research and my work with both the Lady Gaga Foundation and Facebook is from my own experiences. You know, the day that I loved school was when I was 32 years old and I became a professor. I hated school up until then, because I was either bored or I was bullied. I never felt like, when I was a teenager, like for me it was more interesting. I said, like, can I go for coffee with your parents? You know? Like I just didn't have any interest. I didn't relate well to kids my age. And that didn't go very well, like in middle school, you know, in New Jersey, where, you know, it was like, you know, yeah, I'll give you a cup of coffee. And it's interesting, you know, when I was in my, about 10 years ago, I went back to my middle school, where I really did not have a good experience, and it was bad. And it was before, a professor, before black belt, before success in life. So a very different stage of my development. And I remembered nothing. Do you know that I couldn't remember where my classrooms were? The only thing I remembered is like the area where my locker was, because I remember getting my fingers slammed in a locker all the time. And I remembered one teacher who I believe was evil, because he didn't do anything about the bullying that was happening in his class. And my bullying was pretty bad at that time. I had kids drawing on my jackets. And I was, how could you not know that as a teacher? Come on. I mean, how could you not know that this kid is like, I'm suffering with all these kids, like, ooh, not know that. And I realized, and then I went, it was kind of an interesting experience. About a month later, I went up to visit my father and said, I found all of your report cards. Do you want them? I said, yeah, I'd love to see them. And my, grade 7, 8, 6, 7, 8, report cards, I was a C student, D student. I got Ds in science and math. I mean, I can share that publicly now because I've done okay. But in all honesty, it's kind of devastating to me to think about, wow, I was a really bad student. I must have been miserable. How was I able to focus on pre-calculus? How was I able to really care about the Roman oligarchy when I was worrying about my survival? So this idea of emotions affecting our attention, affecting our memory, and affecting our learning can't be underlooked. The second is decision making. Just for curiosity, has anyone here ever made a bad decision? So I've done research with teachers on how their mood states influence the way they look at students' work. So as many of us think that our grading is an objective measure, what I've shown in my research is that 1-fold to 2-fold grade differences can happen as a function of emotion state. Simple experiments. I took half this room and I say, just think about a really rough day at work, and now read this essay and grade it. You guys think about a great day at work, read this essay and grade it. Literal, simplest mood induction. You guys give it 1 full grade or 1 lower than that side. The more interesting thing about this research, from my perspective, is that after the study is over, we do a little debriefing, like you have to in research. And I say, how many of you, not how many of you, but how many of you made the connection or think that your mood induction had any influence over your grading? What percentage do you think of the educators say, well, now it's pretty obvious? It's 10%. So 90% say, no way. There's no way that writing about my bad day would have changed the way I looked at my students' work. And then we look at the bar graphs. So what this tells us is that oftentimes our emotions influence our decisions, our cognition, in ways that are not conscious. Does that make sense to everybody? That we're not aware of it because we're not really paying attention. Now what's interesting is that follow-up studies of this type have shown that if you do a little check-in on the mood meter or any kind of survey before you go into the behavior, takes away the effect. So it's not that the emotion state is necessarily driving the way you're grading the student's work. It's that the lack of awareness of how you're feeling is influencing the behavior. That's pretty darn important, isn't it? So one of the things that's critical for our work in schools as educators is that you need to plot yourself before you walk into that classroom. Because if you had a rough morning with your son or daughter or your significant other, and you're irritated and I can't believe this is bullshit. And then you walk, good morning, everybody. It's going to have an impact, don't you think? And you're not going to be conscious of it.
If I have a really horrible day and I have to grade papers, but I plot myself before I do it, I'm going to be more fair. I'm going to be fairer.
You will be. You may also decide that your strategy is to hold off. If you're in a really bad place, obviously that's a little different than just these slight mood shifts throughout the day. But yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I've noticed the
That takes a high degree of self-awareness. Yes?
Well, if the scores were different, was one more accurate? I mean, it may have raised it in one way or it may have lowered it, but which?
It depends on the criteria. So it depends if you're grading for creativity or you're grading for grammar and punctuation.
Okay.
So what we know from our research is that the yellow kind of emotions are very good for building and doing things that are more on the creative side, like brainstorming, inductive reasoning tasks, whereas the blue emotions are better for deductive reasoning tasks. We'll get into this a little later. We're going too far ahead now. The third is relationships. How many of you like to be around the disgruntled colleague? How many of you think to yourself, wow, he's such a jerk. I'm going to see if he wants to go for coffee. Most of us don't do that, right? We don't like to be around people who are constantly demonstrating unpleasant feeling states.
Sometimes I like to because I want to kind of help that colleague, that somebody on my faculty to, look towards the light, I guess.
If your goal is if your motivation is to help that person, but on a daily basis, do you choose to be around these kinds of people? Probably not.
I make it a point to be with that person because we are working on X, Y, or Z.
Yeah. Fourth, is just thinking about everyday behavior. Just think about your everyday behavior, your performance. How many of you really take notice of, wow, you know something, this is not the right state of mind to be in to do this. I need to put that aside, like we were saying earlier. So from our perspective, emotions matter, and that's one of our taglines. Emotions matter, and they matter a great deal for us. From attention, to memory, to learning, to decision-making, to relationships, to just darn everyday performance. They also matter for what other aspects of our lives? What's the fifth one? Exactly. Your personal, your physical, your mental health. When you have an anxiety disorder, what is your challenge?
Thinking straight.
Thinking straight, but what is the challenge in general for anxiety? You're using maladaptive strategies, aren't you, to manage your anxiety, your rumination, your worry, your obsession. When you are depressed, think about it, right? You're unable, you don't have the skill set to bring yourself out of that blue. And what we know from not only our research, but other people's research, is that the more unpleasant emotions that you start experiencing as you age, the greater your mortality. So there is a value, right, to putting more positive emotion into your life, and there's value to learning strategies to regulate. So now the question is, what do we do with our feeling states? And that's where these ruler skills come in. The first are recognizing emotions. When we recognize emotions, what do we do to recognize emotions? At your table groups, take 1 minute. What are the discrete skills involved in the recognition of emotion? Go. Think of self, think of other. The discrete things that help us to recognize our own and other people's emotions. Somebody. Listening. So that means voice. You're paying attention to the vocal intonations. Dacher Keltner, who's founding director of this center, right, talks about that. Right? Everyone, what does it sound like when you're expressing compassion? 3, 2, 1, go. One more time. 3, 2, 1. No, don't say it. Let me hear it. You know, no words, just intonation. Tonate, ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, nice. How about awe? Go. It was funny, when I did it in Australia, everyone went, awe. I said, no, awe. And they went, awe. Ready? Let me hear awe. 3, 2, 1, go. Compassion. All right. So we do pay attention to people's vocal intonations. Next. Body language. Got a problem? Right? Facial expressions, yes. So we're looking at the body, and we're looking at the face. So we got body, face, voice. What else?
Motion.
Movement.
Looking at the body, motion.
Yeah, movement. What else?
Well, in yourself, it's a physical state.
Exactly.
That goes on inside you, right?
So in self, it's the physiology. It's paying attention to the heart rate, whether or not you're sweating, whether or not you're clammy, tense. Anything else?
We said behavior.
Meaning?
Like somebody could actually be, maybe that's body language, but doing, like if someone's throwing a glass across the room.
Yeah, you can pick up something must be wrong. This doesn't look like something I want to approach. Yes. So behavior. Good. That's recognition of emotion. I want to know from all of you, besides the training that you just had, how much real training you believe the students and the schools that you work in are getting in this skill set.
They're getting training, they're not getting official training. A lot of the stuff you're talking about at this moment is what you learned growing up.
Yes, it is.
Judging other people around you, when somebody treats you nice, somebody treats you wrong, how they felt, what they said, what the sound was. So you have it ever since you're a little baby, and all of a sudden you're in school. We don't teach it officially in school, but you get it in life.
So my question to you, Nestor, is how do you know that what you're perceiving is accurate?
You test it, and you fail sometimes. When you test it, you fail. When you test it, you fail. And you're very careful.
Someone like you might be that way, but how about the children? How many kids are getting the accurate feedback in terms of their accuracy? How many of you, for example, grew up with a parent that said, what's your name?
Stephanie.
Stephanie. I'll be your father for a minute. Stephanie, I was watching you on the playground the other day. I was blown away by the way you were analyzing people's facial expressions. You know, the way you noticed to like step back when Laura was approaching you because you saw that her eyebrows were furrowed and her lips were pressed. I'm really proud of that.
Your kid gets that.
No. I mean, I don't want to be that neurotic. But my point is, you know, do we do that kind of coaching? Because it's not just about awareness, is it? It's about accuracy. And what we know is that some of these basic emotions are easy to identify, but the more complex ones may be challenging.
I think at the preschool level, we do try to do that because we're labeling for them what's happening, what emotions there, what they think is going to go on for them,
Yeah.
what they might try next if they haven't been successful. So I think hopefully some of us are.
At preschool, it's a lot more social and emotional learning, isn't it? Because it's by necessity. But then you get into elementary and middle school and high school. In high school, we don't do that. We teach subjects. The U is understanding of emotion. So what does it mean to understand emotion? From our perspective, understanding of emotion is the more complex piece. It's understanding the causes and the consequences, las causas y las consecuencias, and how our emotions influence our judgments, decision making, attention. So it's knowing, it's having that self-awareness, not with the word that you're feeling, but how that emotion state may be biasing your cognition and judgment. For the first time ever, I mean, not ever, that was complete BS. I would say for the first time in a long time, about a month and a half ago, I had a little breakdown. I'm completely overwhelmed in my career right now. And I had been traveling, I got home, we had talked on the telephone, and the idea was that we were going to have dinner, da-da-da. There was miscommunication. My mother-in-law was with me, or us. Get home, it's 9 o'clock, I'm starving. We have no food in the house, there's nothing cooked. Not like that was, it's not like, and I remember being there like panicking. Like, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, and there's nothing in the house. Great to see you. And I remember it almost like becoming crazy. Like literally. I remember the tension in my body, and I was like, and you remember we went on vacation 3 years ago? Do you remember that? And do you remember, we talked yesterday. Do you remember that? We talked, and all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute. This is not going to go in a good direction. This is going way down the wrong valley. And it was like that moment where I'm like, you know something? Like, I know that I don't have the strategies to deal with this. As much as I've trained myself and been in work, I had to excuse myself. I said, I am in a really bad place. I'm starving, I'm tired, I'm really irritable. I love you both. I'm going to bed. And I just disappeared. Because I knew that where I was emotionally was not a place to be around people. And I didn't have the regulatory ability at that moment. My resources were depleted. I didn't have enough in me. So it was that awareness of how my emotion state was going to drive my cognition and behavior in places that I just didn't want to regret. And I knew I'd regret it. I knew if I stayed in that moment any longer, it was bad news.
But how many people can stop and remove themselves from that?
Well, again, I've worked on this my whole life.
I know.
So, but that's the goal. That's my goal, right? We're going to teach kids this stuff developmentally, appropriately ways. And it's going to happen. I promise you. It's going to happen. But what I'm trying to share with you is that understanding piece. It's really getting down deep into, all right, so why am I feeling this way? It's because I'm tired. It's because I'm hungry. It's because I'm exhausted from thinking about life and talking about the mood meter. Right? It's like those clay pots. Sometimes the mood meter becomes the clay pot. It's like labeling emotion. Etiquetar. I love that word in Spanish. Etiquetar. Labeling emotion. Putting language to it. Having that sophisticated vocabulary to describe the full range of emotions. At your table groups, you have 30 seconds to share the difference between jealousy and envy. Go!
I wish I had something with jealousy.
3, 2, 1. Hands up. Everybody, hands up. We're coming back together. Who feels confident at their table groups that they can tell me the difference between jealousy and envy? Raise your hand. Yes, sir. What's your name?
Cody.
Say it again.
Cody.
Cody.
The difference we came down to was that there's an element of resentment and jealousy that is not there in envy.
You don't agree with him?
No, as far as jealousy, I feel
Getting to a fight.
I thought that there is an element of fear in jealousy. Fear of losing something or being threatened by something.
She's the dissenter. Everyone else.
She's the dissenter. All right, that's fine. We like people that dissent. Anyone else have a yes, ma'am. Julie.
We came down with the fact that the difference was that with envy, like you might be envious of something somebody has or whatever, but it won't become dangerous. Whereas jealousy, if you're going to be jealous of something, it could take you to the dark side. And that's more of a type kind of person. It's more ingrained. It could become evil.
I'm not sure I want to be your friend. Anybody else have another perspective? Yes, ma'am.
I thought envy was one of the deadly sins, so I equated envy as, I assumed envy was worse than jealousy.
Because those were written by an emotion scientist.
Exactly.
Okay. How about someone at this group?
I just thought that jealousy, I feel shame when I feel jealous of someone.
Interesting. So you have a shame associated
Yep.
with that. Should we keep going? Anyone? One more? Yes, sir.
I'm trying to say it out loud because it gets stuck in my mind.
No worries.
Envy is when I want something you have. Jealous is when I feel I'm gonna lose something I have.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's why I cut you. All right. What's your name? Maheen. Come here. Maheen. Very good. Maheen, help me out. Maheen and I are dating now, just so you know.
I date married men.
Michael. Stay there. No, stay there, Michael. So,
I got somebody jealous over there.
so Maheen, I want you to look at Michael. Imagine we're walking down, I don't know, what do you do in Berkeley? Working down Shattuck. And all of a sudden, Maheen and I are walking down. We've been dating for a while now. And I noticed out of the corner of Maheen's eyes this look at Michael like she's never looked at another man before. Can you do that for me?
I can try.
Go ahead. Okay. So I don't want Nestor over here to feel. Ready? Now look at like Nestor's, and now we keep walking now. Go ahead. Okay. Thank you. So stay here. How do I feel on that instance? Okay, so why do we get it now? Why do we understand what jealousy means now versus confusing it with envy? Because our dissenter was right. Go dissenter, and the other person was right. They're losing something. Yes. Because jealousy involves the fear of losing something important to you. Where I'm jealous of Nestor, I'm jealous of Michael because my love object may be going home to them that night. I'm not sure that was appropriate, but it's okay. So that's jealousy. That was a joke, by the way. Some people appreciate the humor, some people are like, yeah, this is going too far.
I figured I had to communicate everywhere I could, or else I won't be happy.
So that's jealousy. Now, when I look at, I don't know, what's your name? Daniel? I look at Daniel's glasses, I think, wow, those look like designer glasses. Like they're probably more expensive than mine. I'd love to be able to afford them. Is that jealous? That's envy. Right? I'm envious of an object, or I can be envious of, you got a nice clean beard, mine's kind of sloppy. So I could be envious of that. Right? I wouldn't be jealous of his beard.
Could you be envious of his partner?
I could be. If that partner had...
I'm trying to get, it's not just tied to people.
It's the relationship, no. Envy can be tied to people or objects, but it's about desiring the characteristic or the object. Envy is about the relationship and the loss of something important to you. Jealousy, I'm sorry, jealousy, right. Which emotion is going to be more challenging to regulate?
Jealousy.
Why?
Higher emotion.
Attachment, fear, lots of things. In classrooms, more envy or jealousy? Which one do you think is the more powerful one in the classroom?
Yeah, because someone got a higher grades, and the teachers.
So there's maybe the envy with the grading stuff, but what about with teacher relationship with students? Yeah. Right, when students notice, wow, this one's getting a little bit more attention.
There are a lot of conflicts in my class for all girls because of the friendship issues. Someone's jealous because the friend that she wants to have is now friends with somebody else. And
Exactly.
It's constant.
Yeah. So what that brings us to mind is why naming it is so important for taming it. Until we have a clear mental model of the emotional experience, it's very hard to know what to do with it. If you're saying, I'm envy, right, and your mental model of it is different from jealousy, it's going to confuse the strategy that you're going to use. It's like the difference between being overwhelmed and anxious. 10 seconds at your groups. What's the difference? Go. Okay, who's got it? This one is, I like this place called Gorilla on Shattuck. They charge about $6 for a quad shot cappuccino. I'm willing to bet one. Who's confident? You are? Come on, Thomas.
Stuart, what do you want me to do?
I want you to tell me the difference between anxiety and overwhelmed. You want to fight? That's another story. I'm not wearing the right shoes for
I
that.
actually was the listener this time, so I would defer to one of my...
Well, what did you hear? What did you hear?
Well, here's what it came down to. I think that being overwhelmed is a product of some constraint, like time, etc., too much work versus time allotted. And being anxious is systemic. It's woven through your persona.
Okay. Yeah.
I think anxiety is about something in the future, and the overwhelmed is like a deficit of some sort, like currently that you're experiencing, like whether it be regulation or whatever it might, whatever that deficit might be caused by. It's a deficit, and the other is more about the future.
Good point.
Anxiety is physiological and overwhelm is more environmental.
Okay. So we have a lot of these, right, but what is the core difference? I think Daniel got it. Yeah. When you're overwhelmed, right, you're smothered. You can't get out. Right? It's like when you wake up in the morning, you have 15,000. Like... Anxiety has an anticipatory component to it, doesn't it? So the strategies that you would use to deal with your overwhelmed is like, get this off my plate, get this off my plate, get this off my plate. You think you were, is that for me? Oh no, you can keep it, it's all right. Thank you though. But I leave it on the table, I may just. What I'm trying to get at here is why the language of emotion is so critical. And that the better language we have, the clearer the mental models are going to be for our own understanding of emotion, our perception of emotion in others, as well as understanding how to express and regulate. So the E is expression of emotion. At your table groups, what does it mean to express emotions? 1 minute, go. How do you express your emotions? All right, expressing. Who's confident? What is expressing about? This table. I feel like you're like the reticent group back there. Expressing emotion.
Releasing them.
What?
Releasing them.
Releasing them. Okay. How do you release them?
Verbally and physically.
Verbally and physically. Artistically, yeah. So we express our emotions in the same ways that we recognize emotions. Right, through our face, through our body, through verbal intonations. So in many ways, the recognition of emotion is paying, okay, where am I? And then the expression is, in part, how comfortable am I displaying these emotions? And I don't know if Eve went into the cultural display rules piece. Did you do that? Yeah. Okay. So then that's what this is coming into. This is about, maybe we're experiencing the same feeling, but in my workplace, we have a rule: feelings don't matter. And over here we have a rule: feelings do matter. Or maybe it's larger cultural differences. So, as you heard from my introduction, 30 years of my life has been spent studying the martial art Hapkido. It's a Korean martial art, and I've gone to Korea, I don't know, dozens of times at this point. And about 7 or 8 years ago, I was promoted to 5th degree black belt, which means that I could literally eliminate all of you. So there's nobody disagrees with anything I'm saying, right? I'm just kidding. And I don't know, people think, you're a 5th degree black belt? I don't believe it. Anyhow, you go for this promotion, you're like, fighting all these people, and then you celebrate. And how do you celebrate in Korea? Karaoke, right? So here I am, this guy who was I didn't have, I'm not really a drinker, but I had a few beers, and I'm now in a karaoke bar in South Little Village in South Korea singing Whitney Houston's I Will Always Love You. and recognizing that, like, this isn't good. But I'm comfortable expressing the full range of emotions. So the party continues, and there's one master there who is like this. He's one of those like real karate dudes. I'm not like a real karate, I just like the techniques. I don't want to be hurt. And he literally grabs me in a finger lock like this. Like this, literally. And he takes me into the bathroom. Imagine this like not so lovely karaoke bar bathroom. And he sits me down on the toilet bowl. I grew up with a neurotic Jewish mother, so this is like my worst nightmare. And he looks at me and he says this: I am number one. I didn't have to go to the bathroom before that happened, but then, I'd like to know at your table group, what does that teach us about the expression of emotion? Go.
You don't have to say very
Okay, what does that teach us about expression of emotion? What did I learn from that situation? What was my take-home meta moment? Don't drink beer and sing Whitney Houston. Seriously, what did I learn from that moment? Me.
Expression of someone expressing their emotions can be threatening to somebody else.
Okay.
The way somebody expresses their emotion is not necessarily the way that we are accustomed to read them.
Really good point.
Because I don't think that you were really getting the message of what, anticipating what you wanted until he told you verbally.
Yeah. So there's that complexity in my interpretation of what he was feeling, his expression. How did he express, right? 25 beers, he takes me into the bathroom to say, I'm number one. So what I learned from that was, I learned about Korean culture, for one, because I did some exploration. Right? Imagine being a male head martial arts teacher in Korea. Can you imagine him saying, Mark, I'd like to talk to you because I'm kind of jealous of, I think that, my teacher is now, your relationship with him is stronger than I'd like it to be. I spend every day cleaning the floors and washing the karate studio. You come in from America, you come do your little fancy movements, and you get your rank, and then you go home, and I continue to wash, and the teacher's looking forward to seeing you all the time because, he's excited of expanding the martial art to the United States. Do you think we had that kind of rich conversation? No. What I realized was that he was threatened. He was threatened by me. He couldn't express it because the warrior, right? The martial artist, right? Your mind is like the moon's reflection in still water. You don't have vexations. A warrior feeling jealousy? Forget about it. But was he having unpleasant emotions? Yes. Were there culturally defined rules for how to express it? Yes, there were. So that's why this piece is very complicated. Because we judge people constantly by looking at their facial expression and make inferences from it. And unless we have that knowledge or that background, or we ask something like, how you feeling? We may be making big mistakes. Does that make sense to everybody? Everybody up. Levántanse. Everybody say, regulate. Regulate. Good. Everybody hands up. Stretch out. So one form of regulation is inhibition, right? Or disinhibition. Everybody put your hands on your hips. We're going to see how disinhibited you are. Roll the hips. 2, 3, 4, 5. Other direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hands on your knees. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Other way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Push back. Roll up slowly. Shoulders back. 1. So that's a yoga pose, obviously. Some of you have seen it before. Some of you think, you know what, my hips haven't stretched that far in 30 years. Some of you are like, you know, I can stretch that pretty good. That's what emotional intelligence is, right? It's a skill. It's an ability. It takes years to develop. There's no emotional intelligence day one. Oh, I've gone to my workshop. This is not, we don't have the train and hope model. It's the womb to tomb experience. That's what it is, because your need for strategies to regulate emotions is going to vary across your life. My father is 80 years old. I lost my mother very young. She died of pancreatic cancer in my 20s. And my father remarried many years later. And now he lives in upstate New York. He's 80. His wife, Jane, called me just before last Christmas. She said, Mark, I can't take it anymore. Your father is angry all the time now. I just can't take it. It's like, all right, call up my 2 brothers, road trip. We remember those days. Now, he was pretty regulated for a long time. For some reason, he was not handling his emotions well. Go up to visit him. We sit in the good old Panera in Binghamton, New York. Heart to heart, father, sons, talking about anger. And I say, Dad, you know, what's going on? You know, we made this trip up here because your wife called us saying that, you know, she's really upset. And she's even thinking about leaving you. And none of us want you to live with us. So we're going to figure out what's going on and we're going to give you some strategies. So we start talking. And I can't take it anymore. That's what he said. I can't take it anymore. What do you mean you can't take it anymore? Her great-grandchildren are not leaving us alone. She's babysitting all the time. We have no time together anymore. And it was true. Her grandchildren and children just didn't have great careers. They were having a hard time. They had children very young. Who's available to take care of the kids while they're going out looking for jobs and trying to make money? Grandma, great-grandma. You know, my father, you know, he's got 3 sons who have sort of left the nest and have become independent completely. This was not in his mental space. All of a sudden, 80 years old, now I'm taking care of 3-month-olds. And so I said, Dad, so tell me more about this. And he starts revealing this issue of Jane spending so much time with the 3-month-old. So I said, what does that bring up for you? I can't take it. So we unpacked it. What was he feeling? Jealous. Right? He's jealous of the 3-month-old because that 3-month-old is getting all the attention. So of course, he never had that revelation until we had this kind of breaking down conversation. What happens? Hysterical crying. You're telling me I'm jealous of a 3-month-old? I said, you said it. You're telling me the story. This is what I think it is, and this is what it seems like for you. So what's your strategies, Dad? Now that you have that awareness, what are you going to do when you notice this coming up for you in the house? And we just started walking through some strategies. There's a technique that we call the meta moment for this, which unfortunately we won't get into in this workshop, but it's a technique to help people prolong the space and time between that trigger and response and activate what we call your best possible self. So Dad, what does it look like to you to be the best possible husband to Jane? the best possible role model to those 3-month-olds in that family. And we started coming up with descriptors of his best self. And I said, so now when you have that image of your best self in mind, what do you do? What is your strategy when you think about that person, your best possible self, not the person who is this disgruntled, inappropriate person? And we just work through it. So I bring this up because it's so important for people to realize that this is a womb-to-tomb experience. What you need in the transition from preschool to kindergartner are some strategies. I can get through this. I think I can. I think I can. At 44, when I'm like, having a breakdown, I say, I think I can. I think I can. Maybe when I'm super desperate, I get there. But not usually. I use more complex reframing, reappraisal strategies. The transition from elementary to middle, middle to high school to college to living alone, having a relationship, out of a relationship, in a relationship, out of a relationship, having children, managing your children, being in a relationship that lasts forever. Sometimes you wake up, right, and if you're in a relationship, you look over and you're like, wow, is this going to be my life? Or like, wow, this is going to be forever. So you're always going to need strategies. When I was deciding to go to graduate school to study this phenomenon, I had just lost my mother. And just after that, I had taken the GREs. And my scores were terrible. How was I able to process? Right? I just wasn't in a place to what's the, who's the antagonist? But I don't give a fuck about the antagonist. About this story in Rwanda. It wasn't where my mind was. I wasn't able to regulate. No one in my life said, Mark, you know what, you just experienced trauma. Take a break. Take the GRE at a better place when you have a clear mind. So these strategies are so critical, and they're not being explicitly taught. So before we take our break, I'm going to share with you the way we think about emotion regulation. It's about having goals and strategies. What does that mean to have a goal? You have to want to regulate, right? I can say calm down, and you're like, go blank yourself. Even if you have to take a deep breath. I remember that I used to say, okay, now how am I going to rip your head off, right? You have to restructure your thinking. So we call it prime. The first is prevent. How many of you have ever known you were going to experience something that you didn't want to experience in terms of your feeling states? Like, you're going to go to Aunt Blank's house, who's a real mess, and she's always mean, and you say, you know what, ooh. Or if you're in schools, right, faculty meetings. How many of you anticipated being annoyed in a faculty meeting? And then you go into the faculty meeting, and you're annoyed, right? And then you're annoyed at the end of the faculty meeting. How much do you remember from the faculty meeting? You weren't even there, because your attention was on the feeling. So what if you knew ahead of time strategies that would help you get through that meeting? Then you got to reduce, down-regulate. I'm angry, I'm anxious. I want to bring that down. We want to prevent. I'm sorry. That's okay. Prevent reduces R. The third for teaching, to me, is absolutely critical, which is initiate. You need to know where you want your students to be in terms of, for example, our mood meter, so that you can get them in the right place of mind. I want to do a lesson on the Holocaust. Boom, blue. We're going to teach about injustices. We're going to get them to think about what it was like to be in the back of that bus. Get in that red and think about how would you have felt if you were that person who had to go to the back of that bus. Red. Lewis and Clark's journey. You get on that bus and you're discovering. Yellow. We're going to talk about nonviolent resistance. Green. How many of us are taught how to differentiate instruction by emotion? Setting goals for where we want our students to be emotionally so that they can be more attentive, get better memory for the information, and learn more effectively. Sometimes we have to maintain, right? How many of you ever had a good day? Come on, it's okay. You're allowed. And you have that dream stealer. Anybody have one of those people? Right? It's like, oh, it's great being a professor. You have all that freedom. Right? I'm glad that you were able to sit in a coffee shop all day and write. You know? I have this one brother. My brother is a doctor in Philadelphia who works hard. He's successful. He calls me a lot during, like a lunch break he has. Hey, Mark, how you doing? Great. What are you doing? Oh, I'm sitting in a coffee shop. Oh, you're in a coffee shop? Yeah. What are you doing? I'm writing. Oh, you're writing in a coffee shop? Yeah. It's like, actually, I'm having a great day. I'm getting stuff out. And he says something like, so the university pays you to sit in coffee shops? Right? And I say, well, yeah, actually, I have the greatest job of all. I get paid to think. And he's like, wow, not bad. It's a good job that you got there. And all of a sudden I'm feeling guilty, right? Well, maybe I should be in my office. Maybe that's, what's happening here? So how do you bring yourself back into that place when you, it's not necessarily the down regulation, right? It's that sort of, I'm in my flow state. I'm feeling really positive, and all these people are like, nitpicking. Kids, for example, who come from really harsh backgrounds. Maybe they love being in your classrooms and schools, and they leave that safe, supportive environment and go someplace else. How do they keep that? What are the strategies we're teaching them to reflect back and retain those strategies? And then E is the enhancement, the up-regulation. Like psyching yourself up before a presentation. And then finally, once you have your goal, you got to choose the strategies. Obviously, there are what we call cognitive and behavioral strategies, or thought and action. There are things that you do in your head, like your self-talk or your reframing. And then there's things that you do, like yoga, or going for a run, or going to the gym, or painting or drawing. And our goal is to make sure that every child in every school, from pre-K to high school, has a rich repertoire of strategies that work for him or her, right? Because what works for me doesn't necessarily work for you. There's no one-size-fits-all for this. This is complicated, right? It marries with your personality. If you're an extrovert, you may need more social supporty kind of strategy. You need people with whom you can talk about things. If you're more of an introvert, maybe you like to just be more private and take walks on the beach and be more introspective and read. But what we have to do is offer children and adults all the options that are available to them so that they can select these strategies and use them to achieve their goals, both personal goals and professional goals. So what we're going to do now is take a nice 15-minute break, refresh, go get some water, go outside for a little while. When we come back, what we're going to do is we're going to dive in more deeply to your own skills, to building some more awareness, for example, about where do you live in the mood meter? Where do you actually live? And how is that influencing your relationships, your decision making, and the quality of your life? Everyone take a nice long inhale. And release. One more inhale. And release. So we're going to do a very hard start. Like I'm very picky about time, at 3:27. Have a good break. Thank you for the first few hours.